Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be reviewing for you the ELAC SUB1010. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to give my video a thumbs up, also subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications when I upload future videos. Alright, so let's get into the ELAC SUB1010. You see it before you right here. This is a relatively inexpensive and compact subwoofer, but does that make it a good choice for you in your system, or if you are on a budget? Stay tuned to find out as we go through my review here. But to begin, let's look at its features and specs. And if you hear some noise in the background, we are experiencing some freezing rain here in the Midwest, so just pay no attention to that. Let's begin by looking at its design features. So this is basically a 12-inch wide by almost 15-inch high by about 12-inch deep box. So as far as subs go, it's certainly not the largest that I have seen out there, not the smallest, but for a 10-inch subwoofer, it's a nice size. And it weighs almost 22 pounds. I can attest that it does seem, quite heavy for a 10-inch subwoofer because it is a 10-inch high excursion textured polypropylene driver. So I'll take the grill off here and you can see it. Just your real basic cloth grill, nothing too exciting. And here is that 10-inch textured driver. It has a nice size butyl rubber surround here, but it's nothing huge. I've seen higher quality surrounds. I've also seen a lot worse, but that's the driver there, and I'll leave that off the rest of the video. Of course, this is an MDF cabinet with a vinyl wrap. No real wood veneer here in this price range. Its color is black, and it has a dual flared rear port, making it a bass reflex design. And the cost on this is a reasonable $130. So continuing with the features, you're going to have an left-right LFE RCA input, very standard on subwoofers. You don't get two inputs on all subs in this price range, but most of them do have that. One, of course, reserved for home theater LFE. And then you have high-level speaker inputs, which is handy to have as well. And you're going to get volume cut knobs for crossover and volume, and then switches for power and phase control. No variable phase control on this one here, just 0 or 180. Now let's get into the specs. So this subwoofer is rated by ELAC to produce 120 watts peak and 60 watts RMS with a frequency response of 37 to 200 hertz. So this is not going to, dig real deep into the 20 hertz range, and in my testing I can attest that that is true. I think the -3 decibel point is at around about 37 hertz, and then it's going to fall quite quickly from there. So what is the assignment for the ELAC SUB1010? It is for it to be an affordable desktop or small room subwoofer. So how did it do on that assignment? Let's look at what the SUB1010 gets right. So to begin, I am going to start with nice punchy bass. I was listening to 10.8 by Deadmau5, and I could get a good sense of the bass in that song. I don't think it was hitting all of the lowest frequencies in that song, but I had a sense of the bass and I could feel it in my chest. A lot of the visceral bass that we feel in our chest is in that 37 to 50 hertz range, and this sub can competently reproduce those frequencies. I enjoyed my time listening to that song using the SUB1010. Next, I played Mango Tree by Zac Brown Band and Sarah Bareilles, and I thought the drum kit sounded very natural on that song. It doesn't have like the deepest of bass, but it does have a decent bass track with the drum kit. I got a very good sense of that while listening to this subwoofer. I really do like the understated look. It's just a nice black box with a decent vinyl wrap. It's not huge, it's not tiny, it's not like one of those very compact 6 or 8 inch subs, but at the same time, it's not just this huge monstrosity that's gonna look ugly in a given room. I think given its size, it blends in really nicely in most rooms. You can kind of hide it under a desk if you have enough room, or in a corner if you don't have room under your desk. Finally, I think that the SUB1010 has a nice set of features for its price range. You're not going to get an app, and you're not going to get outputs with the built-in crossover, but you do have a nice set of features on this subwoofer. And I think it is nice that it has speaker high-level inputs, and it also has stereo RCA input jacks, one of which is an LFE input. But now let's talk about what it gets wrong. And the first one I would like to cite is distorted bass at 90 decibels and above. So I was playing that deadmau5 song 10.8, and I noticed something didn't sound quite right when I began to crank it. And so in my system, I had the ability to turn off the amplifier and just play the sub using a mini DSP, so I did that. And I noticed that as the audio approached 90 decibels, I was using a decibel meter on my phone, I started to hear some distortion in the bass that this subwoofer was reproducing. That distortion was really noticeable with frequencies starting at around 40 hertz and below. 37 hertz is this -3 decibel point, so I wouldn't expect it to play authoritatively at that high of a level down that low, but still, there was definitely some distortion in the bass frequencies, and I found that to be a little unfortunate. Now, if you don't plan to play it much louder than that, it should be okay. I think it would be more than enough volume for my use case in my room. But it is something that I documented. Here I have a video of it starting to distort. So hopefully in that video, you can hear what I'm talking about through YouTube. I'm not sure how it's going to translate, but trust me, it was there. I thought you needed to know. Finally, I'm a little bit concerned about the vinyl wrap starting to peel on this sub. It's not really a big concern, but I have had other ELAC products with a similar vinyl wrap start to peel, especially at where some of the seams meet. It's not uncommon with this type of vinyl wrap, but it's something that I thought you should know about as well, and a concern that I have, although I did not take off a ton of points for that. So having said all that, what is going to be my frugality grade for the ELAC SUB1010? Well, it is going to get a B-, and that is mainly because of that distortion at 90 decibels and above. I took off quite a few points just for that, because it is a real concern for people who are looking at this sub and maybe want to play louder. Other than that, I really think it's a great sub, and a B- is still a pretty good rating. I mean, that's still far above average. So having said all that, what are my recommendations for the ELAC SUB1010? Well, the first one is, if you have $130 to spend on a sub to use on a desktop or in a small room, this would be a great option, especially if you mainly play music, because that is where it shines. If you're looking for a compact solution, it's also another good option. Now, if you are looking for something that is still compact but yet digs a little bit deeper, you're going to have to look elsewhere. And you're probably going to have to spend more money. A couple of good options here would be the Dayton Audio SUB1010L. My sister actually has that in her home theater system, and it's a very competent sub. It actually reaches about 28 hertz at its -3 decibel point. So it digs a little bit lower than the sub, and it gets a little bit louder. It's also a bigger box too, so that's something to think about. That's a good choice. Also, Yamo makes some nice pretty subwoofers that are fairly compact in its S line. If I recall from my review, they do get a little bit louder than the ELAC without distortion. It's been a little while, but those are really good subs. They can be found oftentimes on sale for around the same price as the SUB1010 here. Plus, they're really, really pretty. I would not recommend this sub for home theater use. My personal opinion is that a home theater sub really needs to hit at least 20 hertz and below. And this sub, of course, really starts to drop off after 37 hertz. And so I don't think it's great for movies. I did play a couple of movies on my computer using the SUB1010, and although I could get a sense of the bass in films such as Iron Man or Edge of Tomorrow, it just didn't have the same visceral impact as my SVS subs, and so I cannot recommend it for that use. Your best option here, if you want something that is compact, not super expensive, and still has authoritative bass, I'd look at the SVS SB1000. You can find those for $400 or even less sometimes on Amazon, And that is a great place to start with a compact, affordable subwoofer. And it actually can hit 20 hertz in a small to medium sized room. So there you have it. That's my review of the ELAC SUB1010. What did you think? Do you agree? Have you also noticed that distortion at 90 decibels and above? I'd be curious to know if others were experiencing that. I thank you so much for watching this review. If you like my channel and the content that I produce, please be sure to check out Patreon and buy me a cup of coffee. I really would appreciate your support so that I can continue to produce these videos. Finally, remember, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap.